hey, I think the old way is dying, or is dead, one or the other. And then it's, well, what about this new way? If I could bring in a second coin on top of Bitcoin, which I view as the safest, it would be XRP. Ask yourself, why would Bitcoin, the most famous coin on the planet, be the only one that can't be staked in this way? That's
XRP
a
can also
very
not be staked. There is no XRP staking, but for a different reason.
well, I want yield on my Bitcoin, and Zorina wants yield on her XRP. Let's get this. How do we get it safe? The way to get it safe was for me to invent the algorithms, and then after inventing them and going into the numbers, the first thing you look at is what happens if a coin goes to zero, which I answered.
I'm joined by Matthew Halfacre. We're going to be speaking about investments, but not simply investments in companies looking for venture capital or companies looking for growth capital. We're going to be speaking about the highest growth investment, cryptocurrencies. Matthew is an expert in BTC, not only investment, but also algorithmic trading. And I do want to know how these two mix together. I know that there's a lot of algorithmic trading out there, but I want to speak about his approach. Hi, Matthew.
Hello, thank you for having me. To start us off, you're correct that our focus is on Bitcoin yield, and it is through using algorithmic systems to create what we hope is the most reliable Bitcoin yield system on the planet currently. In a general sense, what we saw when we really started trying to push this for worldwide attention was we noticed that there in the markets there is an imperfect understanding of how money really works and what money really is and what yield really means for you. And in a lot of cases, I think that this goes back to many misconceptions and many things that we have all been told and taught over the last 30-year span. They have been a mixture of error, disingenuousness, misconception, outright lying. Sometimes policy, kind of prohibits people from really stating what is money to me and what is happening to the money that I'm using today. And so the real truth, Zorina, is when we got in, we wanted to solve two problems. We saw the issue with the US dollar, and I think that hosting a show like you host, you must be aware at this point, at least of some of the calamities circulating around the US dollar and its perpetuation and its use on in the real world. When I decided to try to tackle this, the first and most natural thing to do, in my opinion, was to look at all of the known asset classes on the earth and in the beginning try to determine what I actually felt was the hardest money or the most successful representation of what money should be, right? And so in the beginning, when we started that journey, finding Bitcoin was the answer to a lot of questions that I had, I guess is the best way to say it. I had many, 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 many issues with things that were happening. I still do, as do most investors and most people who would like to start investing, which in a lot of cases is even more important. The ones that would like to penetrate, they need a way to start. They need something to help to educate them and something to help be a guidepost along their journey. And so during that, I started from what are all of the known asset classes? What do they mean to me? What do they mean to you? How are they being used today? How are they being used inappropriately today? And is there an issue within that asset class that needs fixing? As you know, you shared with me before we started, you're a multiple time entrepreneur and very successful lady. So you've been around enough to know that in every system, in every company, in every scenario, there are going to be great things, but there's also going to be things that are chinks in the armor or weaknesses in that system. I wanted to have the form of money for me that presented the least amount of weaknesses, the least amount of chinks in the armor, the least amount of ability to hurt my overall holdings.
Mhm.
So, with that, when you decide to take that journey and you decide to go that deep into macroeconomics, what actually takes place is you get the assets, the asset classes, and you start to list, for yourself and for your company, what does it mean to have cash in the bank? What does it mean to have bonds? What does it mean to have equities? What does it mean to have mutual funds? And all the way down the list. And so, if you don't mind, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to share a few things that I've got here on my screen. These were really monumental things for me. And if I were trying to give your viewers and listeners some direction with my time and my exposure to them, I would suggest that they all start from right here. This is where any logical journey would begin. So with that, first I looked into the fiat currencies, bonds, equities, derivatives, commodities, real estate, mutual fund, index funds, fine art, private equity, cash in the bank, and stable coins. These are all accepted as pretty somewhat successful in certain scenarios, asset classes. And then they all also, as I alluded to earlier, have issues. So my first thing was if I'm going to take what I'm envisioning worldwide, I would like to fix the problems, right? Products don't work if unless they're designed to fix something, right? And so in that, I started to ask myself, do what any investor should, what are the things that I don't know about these assets and what do I need to avoid? And so, in the interest of not being too long-winded, I'm just going to tell you a few things. When I looked at fiat currencies, fiat just, I studied the US dollar, but the reality is all of the currencies that are circulating the earth and being used today are of a fiat nature.
Mhm.
So if you're in a different country, simply plug in your currency of choice with the dollar. But in my case, fiat currencies, there was an unlimited supply, the centralized control, there's a confiscation risk that can happen, there's negative real yields. Um, Negative real yields out of the ones I just called, that one really jumped out and bit me. I did not have a full understanding in the beginning of what does that actually mean to me. I never knew 15 years ago that if I just hold dollars and nothing more, just hold them in my account, that I actually was getting poorer. I did not at a personal level fully understand that. And I think that there's a lot of people today that are in that situation. But to fast forward, that was just fiat. Like if I go to bonds, there's issuer risk, counterparty risk. There's no liquidity in crises times. It's fiat denominated, which means like we just said before, if there's already a problem with the dollar And now you have an investment vehicle that's using the dollar as the denominator within this comparison, I guess you would say. That in itself lends to trouble. You're taking something that you know is problematic and then using it as the denominator to compare all other assets on Earth to. This is creating the misconception and the problems that I alluded to earlier.
Uh,
So
may,
next,
may I
go
briefly
ahead,
interrupt you, Matthew?
please.
Speaking about the link of these assets to the dollar, isn't BTC anyhow linked to the dollar as well via Tether? There is even
Uh,
some, let me just
go
continue a
ahead.
little bit. There's even I don't know if it's theory or it's maybe the entire truth, and I can't remember where I heard it. I think I may have heard it on the Daniela Cambones show. She interviewed someone famous in the financial world, and they said that BTC was actually created to stimulate the demand for US Treasury bonds. So BTC was created because it's denominated in US dollar, and that is what still keeps the US dollar afloat.
With I don't know the
Uh-huh.
individual you're
Yeah, I mean,
discussing,
I
and I
can't
don't
even
know.
quote because I forgot it, but this is what remained as a, yeah.
It's okay.
Mhm.
I do. First, I want to say openly, I do respectfully disagree with this person.
Mhm.
No disrespect meant
Yeah.
toward that
Mhm.
at all. But I would ask that person to look at what's happening right now. Look at now. Um, Bitcoin is near and around an all-time high. Bitcoin is the benchmark of an entire new digital asset economy that is rolling in over the next 20 years. It has solidified its position, in my opinion, at least. And there's much factual data that led me to that, but it's solidified its position as the gold of the new digital asset economy. And so to expound on that reference that I just used, if you are agreeing with me, Zorina, or this person, or whatever person, if they're agreeing with me that yes, over the next 20 years, there is in fact a shift to the digital asset economy. Once you've gotten that far, the next thing is, well, okay, do you agree that this is the gold or store of value product within that new frame that's coming in over the next 30 years?
It makes
And
sense.
and the truth is, once you do lead yourself to the agreement and the understanding that yes, digital assets are here to come and stay. Yes, Bitcoin has in fact secured the position as the most notable, the most valuable so far within a 10 to 20 year time frame at least. And the store of value of choice for the digital asset economy, then you say, okay, so why don't I compare this new economy to the old one? And let's try to draw comparisons so that I can see how things in the new economy are going to compare against things in the old economy, right? So if we go that far and we agree that Bitcoin and gold are to be compared to one another, well, what actually happened with gold? What happened is over time, it became the one true measure of value that all fiat currencies and equities and the like were ultimately measured against to derive their real value. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say you asked me, is the dollar strong today? If I compare the dollar to the Turkish lira, whatever, doesn't matter. Any other fiat currency, the answer can appear to be that the dollar is strong, right? When compared to another fiat. Now, if I compare the dollar to, say, the Magnificent Seven in the stock market, you got Apple, Google, Amazon, blah, blah, blah. If I were to compare the dollar to those, I may actually find out that relative to one of those, the dollar isn't currently strong, right? In the end, when things have variable change the way that fiat does and the way that equities do and mutual funds and all the index funds, whatever, those all have an element of variable change. They have CEOs that can be pulled in and out. They have government manipulation, things that can happen. There's leveraging aspects. There's synthetic things going on. There's derivatives. So all of these things can change the core principles of a company. Those can change the core principles of a country. They can change the core principles of a currency. No one was able to actually change the core principles of gold. The reason, when gold started, it was hard to transport, it was hard to transact in, but it was the least manipulatable, and the supply aspect of it was much more clear, transparent, and fixed, comparatively speaking, to a company and a fiat currency or something of the like. So what it became is, I really don't know how valuable my dollar is unless I compare it to gold. Now, real estate does fit into that bucket some, but for now, we'll stay off of real estate. So, what I'm saying, to go back to your question about the Bitcoin, if we agree that Bitcoin is in fact the gold-ish layer of the new digital asset economy that's coming, what I want is to find the hardest money, the soundest money, the most long-term and safe and reliable money within the new paradigm. So I did what I felt was normal. I looked for what took the most characteristics of the old gold, and then I asked myself, number one, are you right about this? Is this the new gold? So I spent a number of years, the last 7, trying to prove to myself that I was in fact right about that thesis, right? And during that time, I didn't prove it. Bitcoin itself proved out many, many things, market dominance. We could go in, I could spend hours and hours on it. To fast forward, Bitcoin itself proved out that at least the majority of the people investing in the space do in fact believe it's the safest store of value and it's the most likely thing to take the place of gold, which is the benchmark in which you compare both fiat currencies and equities to, right? So I say to myself, okay, in the future, if we are going to compare Bitcoin to every other crypto in that same way, that leads me to a normal and obvious thing. I must hold lots of Bitcoin, right? So I, as a person, I my journey took me to there. Once your journey takes you there, what's the next question? If you say to me, and I'm asking you this legitimately, if you say to me, I want to hold as much Apple as I can. I'm not going to buy much else because I have determined Apple is the safest for me. Once you say that, that's your position. Now, how can I help you? If your position is that, and I'm selling things on the market,
You make
how
more of it
can
for
I
me.
help
How can you make
more?
more of it for
Wow,
me?
you got it. You got it. So the truth, Zorina, is I am a product of the natural evolution within the space that happens. You first get scared of government tyranny. Second, they debank you or whatever they've done with, I'm just using my personal things. Um, Whatever it is to cause that distrust
Mm,
leads you to crypto. The crypto leads you to, well, which is the strongest crypto? The which is the strongest crypto leads you to, okay, now that I've studied this and I truly have a thesis, I've got to stack that. Then the last piece of that evolution is, well, if I'm stacking this for 10 years, how do I make the most yield on it? Right? So if you're stacking dollars for 10 years, you want more dollars. You want yield on your dollars in a safe and effective method that doesn't break any of your rules about money. So if you came to the dollar because you have a set of ethics that you need followed, those ethics have to be there in the yield vehicle for you to accept it. So and this company is a product of someone who said Bitcoin is better. I will spend the next 10 to 20 years stacking it and leaving what didn't work well for me.
mm,
And then my product, the Bitcoin Treasury Codex, is the answer to a very specific question. How do I get more Bitcoin while stacking?
mm.
So have you have you ever actually just held something for 10 years and just gained yield on it and that you had no other focus? All you wanted was more of this and you operate. And this is an honest question.
No, I actually got a little bit into crypto in 2020, so it's not more than 5 years.
In 2020? Okay.
Yeah.
So, can I ask, if you don't mind, what led you to buy the very first $100? Why did you buy $100 worth? Honestly.
This will be a very unconventional answer. I'll tell you the honest truth is I was working on my platform Healnlearn with a shaman, Joe Fox Dreamer, and we used to have a group, and I was joining his groups every Wednesday. And once he told me he had gotten together with a psychic, and she told him out of nowhere, "Hey, I don't know what XRP is, but this is going to run, or the whole financial system is going to run on XRP." And the shaman told me this. And so I started researching what the hell is XRP?
Very good.
And that's
You
how I
were
actually
talking
got
to
into
smart
it.
people.
Sorry?
That's cool. So
Yeah.
the first thing you bought was XRP.
The first thing I bought was
And
XRP. Yeah.
so at some level, you listen to these individuals who said there is a new way coming.
Well, that was the
And you,
instigation of my interest, I would say. That was, I did my own
yeah,
research
right,
afterwards, but yeah.
right. So I started from there too, as we all do. Every one of us starts from, hey, I think the old way is dying, or is dead, one or the other. And then it's, well, what about this new way? And then it's, well, I'll stick my toe into the water. And then it's, well, I'll wade into my knees. And then, okay, I'll wade into my waist. When you get to about neck level, you will want Bitcoin yield. And just to be clear, you're right. And the shaman that you're mentioning was right about XRP's future. If I could bring in a second coin on top of
Mhm.
Bitcoin, which I view as the safest, it
Mhm.
would be XRP. So number one, this person puts you on a very good path. You may say to yourself in a few years, you know, I don't want to comment on your finances, but I turned $1,000 into $10,000 with XRP. And the thing is, there's proof that it's still doing this and all these things. You may at that time say, you know, I'm not selling. I'm not because it's better than the rest. I just want more. In crypto, there were, when I started to look and I reached that neck level and I decided that it was time for Bitcoin yield, I had my algorithms the whole time. I've invented these algorithms years ago. They were not perfect. They were a labor of love that continue to evolve, right? They
What were
do
you
still
doing
to the
before that, Matthew? How did you create these algorithms? Do you have experience in algorithmic trading, or how did it all evolve in terms of your
yes.
skills? Hmm.
I am a lifetime entrepreneur. I've had three different companies. The two companies before this, both of them I sold. Neither of them did I sell for what I wanted. I made some mistakes. I undervalued myself in an area. One of the companies, I did not make that much the whole time. And then when I sold, I barely got a reasonable amount back out of it. The other, I did sell for some profit, but not the story I was looking for, and then I wasn't ready to retire. Well, the entire time I owned the first two companies, all the way back to 1996, I was trading. But my father, he was a great is a great man, very, very brilliant person. To anyone who's had the pleasure of knowing him would agree with that as well. He taught me many things from 10 to 16 years old, including the macroeconomic climate. And he did so in a very non-institutional, not college related, not Wall Street related, a personal experience related kind of a teaching. I wanted to go to work with my dad. I wanted to be my dad. I saw my dad and still do as the most clever investor I had ever met. And I found that more interesting because he wasn't in Wall Street. So to fast forward, I make my first trade at 16 years old. I never stopped trading the entire time.
Hmm.
When by the time COVID came around, 25 years later, I had developed a history of getting things right. I hit, the Microsoft, Google, Apple, Amazon, Bitcoin, Ethereum. I mean, I went right down the list, killing it, just absolutely killing it. And the reason, I'll just be very frank, it was because I had a voracious habit of research. And when I say voracious, I do mean 8 to 12 hours every single day, 7 days a week. I do not stop researching the macroeconomic client. I will not stop because it's the one source in my life that has been constantly paying dividends, constantly allowing my careers, myself, my family, and the like to evolve. And I almost over the years have become so addicted to that act of 8 to 12 hour a day research that now it is me. You know how you after a while you play softball for 10 years, then 12, then 18 years, then eventually you are softball. Softball is you. Like right now, LeBron James is basketball. You know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
not claiming grade or I made some level. I did not. There are people with better numbers, but I actually researched so long that I felt I was the macroeconomic climate. I feel that I am in it at
Mhm.
every moment. And I move and flow with it up and down. I follow everything that happens. As far as the algorithms, I taught myself to code starting in about 2017, spanning to about 2022. I taught myself to be a coder. I did that because I understood the new online asset digital economy that was coming in. I also, the introduction of ChatGPT to our lives took me from a self-taught mediocre coder to someone that now has the access, just like everyone, to GPT, which can allow a mediocre coder to be propelled to a very high level very quickly because of tools that it brings, right? So I guess to answer your question, what qualified me or what allowed me to make this algorithm, it was a combination of tenacity, time, 25 plus years, GPT itself, creativity on my part, but the most important was need. The need for a better system started to become very apparent. And need is a stronger driver than everything I said first. Well, I'd love to brag to you and say that, oh, I did it because I'm great at blah. None of that's true. I did it because I was afraid. I did it because I don't believe today your assets, my assets, their assets are being properly handled. I don't believe the shepherd that is tending our flock for me is asleep at the wheel. I don't want a shepherd of my money who's asleep. I want one who is guarding against the wolves, guarding against the possible attacks for these sheep. These, who we believe the shepherd is actually the wolf. So I don't want to be lied to and told that my shepherd is my wolf, or you know what I'm saying.
I know what
This
you're saying,
didn't.
and it brings me to a question about risk, which I actually wanted to ask you towards the end, but I'm going to ask you now. There was, again, I can't quote names, but I do watch a few analysts on XRP, and they recently shared that there was a breach in the code of BTC uh, for the amount of 1.5 billion, and eventually they managed to reverse it. So apparently the code is not so robust as initially claimed, and next to that, there could be a black swan event or something where we, I don't know, we lose electricity for a while. What happens then with all of this wealth?
This question is a very good one. I get this type of a thing a lot. I'll start. There's really two parts to your
Yeah,
question. There's the Bitcoin versus our XRP part, kind of that.
yeah.
I'll talk to in every system, new, medium, or old, there are always multiple investment vehicles, and it has to be that way. It has got to remain that way. If it doesn't, ask yourself what that looks like. One investment vehicle for everyone that we're told to use that has no way of confirming the advantages or the disadvantages. No, I'm not doing that, right? Now, here's what I will do. I will gladly engage with you and others over healthy debate about, does this small factor in XRP outweigh this small factor in Bitcoin? And if so, how does it tie to Ethereum? And if so, is Solana going to flip them all? I would love to engage in that debate with you. I want to engage in that debate with the banks, with my clients, with my friends, with my family, because that is you taking responsibility for your portfolio, making a thesis and a position, educating yourself, and then coming to talk to me about it in a friendly and fun manner that honestly, just being real, that you saw this on the XRP channel, right?
Yeah.
If you flip over to the Bitcoin channel, you're gonna see something weird about XRP and then something weird about Solana. And then you
Oh my
flip the
God.
Solana channel,
It's
then there's
hilarious.
that about it.
Yeah, there is this
The
thing about
reality,
the XRP army and
they,
the BTC Maxis or
right?
whatever. Uh-huh.
They all have a future here. And the truth is, even in the past, even the index funds that I hate so much, the bonds that I hate so much, the US dollar that I'm telling you is failing from factual, I don't see them as dead. I don't see them as going away forever. I just see them as temporarily their disadvantages are outweighing their advantages.
Mhm.
In both XRP and Bitcoin, what I see is their advantages are tremendously outweighing their disadvantages.
Mhm.
I can see disadvantages in both.
Yeah.
I see the disadvantage you're referring to with your question in Bitcoin. My small answer to just that disadvantage is I do not think that there is anything that can be said about that possible Bitcoin fork that can change the true nature of what Bitcoin has to offer. I think that it's something like arguing about whether the fly that landed on the elephant is going to eat the elephant.
Mhm.
The fly landed on it, yes.
Mhm.
There's a fly there. There may be three flies there, but they're still on the elephant and they
Mhm.
can't eat the elephant. Bitcoin is that elephant, and that's a proof. I'm not stating something that I hope
Mhm.
will be true. It is true. I could tell you now that Tesla is a horrible company because such and such told me that they hate Elon Musk so badly that Tesla could never survive again. But if I said that, I would be, in fact, wrong. It would be a fly landing on an elephant, the
Mhm.
elephant in this case being one of the greatest companies on the face of the planet in real proof. The fly being such and such's opinion on Twitter Sunday at 1:41.
Mhm.
It's I have them, you have them, we have them, but Bitcoin isn't today is not subject to anyone's opinions. The best person on earth who has a chance to manipulate Bitcoin with their speech is Donald Trump, the most
Mhm.
famous person on the planet at this point, the largest social media presence, and just in general, when this person speaks, markets have to respond. He came out just the other day, just I think it was 2 days ago. He said he's buying 2.5 billion worth. He's setting up Bitcoin strategic reserves, all these things. The first American president to champion this stuff. People are framing it as, oh, well, now the EU and China and everybody else don't have to buy Bitcoin just because Trump's buying Bitcoin. Did you see what happened? Here's what actually happened. He came out, announced all this stuff, got to the all-time high. That's it. We didn't. This is the most famous person on the entire planet announcing that his whole country now has a new buying procedure and all this. It got to the all-time high that it had already been at. Even Donald Trump, with proof, $2.5 billion of proof that things have changed for the whole country, a very visible country in the US, nothing. It does very little. So this video and my opinion and your opinion and that one's opinion and that one's opinion, they aren't going to stop the dollar. They're not going to stop gold. They're not going to stop real estate. All I'm saying is they're also not going to stop Bitcoin. They're
Mm,
also not going to stop XRP. So for me, I hold XRP. I hold real estate. I hold gold. I don't have the position and never have had and never will have the position that Bitcoin is the only thing. I do on today's date state publicly that I think it is the safest thing on the planet today.
mm,
I think that XRP is most likely going to be the highest performing asset class on the earth over the next 3 to 4 years. But I do not think that XRP is the gold
mm,
of the new digital asset landscape. I actually think of it a little bit differently. I do think that it has some kind of counterparty issues and some governmental issues that are going to come to the surface that are going to cause it to have some trouble beyond 3 to 4 more years. But
mm,
if you want to know the truth, you hold on to your XRP because it's going to outperform Bitcoin in the next 3 to 4. It
mm,
is. I hold my XRP specifically because I believe it will outperform Bitcoin over the next few.
mm,
And behind closed doors, as I told you, I am working on and looking at XRP yield with my algorithms now. It's just that it's very difficult to launch a coin to an entire world, Bitcoin yield coin, explain all, look how long it takes to explain all this crap to you to get that explanation out to an entire world over just one coin is a very, very difficult thing to do. So the reality is for me, I'm caught trying to finish taking my first thing worldwide, the Bitcoin yield coin, or the Codex, as we lovingly call it. But XRP would definitely be my second one. And
I didn't, yeah. I didn't realize that it's
it's
actually a
on its
coin.
way to being my second.
Yeah. I didn't
Say the
realize,
question again.
Matthew. Yeah, I didn't realize that the BTC Codex was actually a coin. I thought it was a platform. Can you maybe explain what exactly it is?
It
Yeah.
it is. The reason you think that is because I'm guessing that, prior to us meeting and having this conversation, you either, looked at my LinkedIn or website or whatever it was. This is the boutique firm that, I've always had, I've started with and developed this stuff under. This firm, the problem with it is that it has minimums. You need to be able to invest 25,000 or more to be a part of what we're doing. It's a boutique firm that's at a local and a regional level. It's not something where I can just sell $100 to someone in China right now. It's not something where you can just right next to the Bitcoin coin. Here's Bitcoin yield, and I can buy it with the click of a button, and I can add $100 in my account in 2 seconds. It's not that. So my firm you researched is the local and regional part of my business. Lately, over the past 1 year, I've been in negotiations and thinking and planning and strategizing about the worldwide penetration. So when you do worldwide penetration, you need to tokenize because the easiest way to buy something is when it's not right next to the register, number one. That's much easier to sell on an exchange. They're already there. They already have their bank attached. They've got their $100 or $1,000 or whatever ready. there's the coin. All I really need at that point to sell that coin is the proof, which I have. That's easy to get $100 clients in China and things like this. But when you just have a boutique firm that's in, on the beach in Alabama, you do your friends, your family, you invent what you invent, you start to grow it, and then you learn, okay, well, the strategy for tokenization is the accepted strategy to take something worldwide. And then you start going and you attract investors and like-minded individuals along the way, which I have. And you start to negotiate with them over what the best strategy for releasing the coin is, which we are. I would say that nothing is solid yet, but only because not enough time to have loved every single part of what we hear. I actually do believe, just to be frank with you, Zorina, I do think that I have possibly the best investment vehicle on the planet. And I really do believe that. And I'm fixing to show the numbers as to why. I have proof that it's way up there. And
Mhm.
so I don't have a way to do it less than worldwide because it is, in fact, a product that was designed by me to help the earth, to
Mhm.
help escape tyranny, to help yield your Bitcoin, to help achieve financial independence. I want the world to experience what I created because it was created for them. And the best way to do that is to tokenize and use the exchanges that are already there.
So what
And
does it take to
so
tokenize your you're
it
tokenizing the
takes,
company actually with the underlying algorithms and system. You're tokenizing that and turning it to a coin. Yeah. So what's the way to tokenize it?
right.
Yeah.
The way to tokenize it is actually to have a very thick skin to go through many, 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 many meetings. But to fast forward to the real answer for you, it is as simple as running my product is today. What my product is us within our own company. My company is called Half Acre Research, and the token itself, we call it the Bitcoin yield coin. We haven't even named it. We haven't even put it on an exchange. When it is sold in my private boutique firm, we call it the Bitcoin Treasury Codex. So what that Bitcoin Treasury Codex actually is, it is a big group of algorithms that do many, many, many different things. We tasked ourselves with becoming the best at turning dollars into Bitcoin on one side. So we used a combination of dollar cost averaging and normal indicators and various things like that to try to perfect the system at rotating from dollars to Bitcoin. Well, that's the left side of our strategy. So on the right side of our strategy is, okay, well, now some of this has actually correctly been turned into Bitcoin. Now, how do I earn the yield? What the algorithms do on that side is they are constantly, they're using both AI and machine learning as well as the existing data, and they are looking for areas of underperformance versus with Bitcoin versus another coin. So because you like XRP, if it's okay, I'm just going to use XRP. What it'll do is you're holding your Bitcoin, you've got 100 of them sitting there. It's studying and watching the minutia between Bitcoin versus XRP in that comparison. Well, it's actually XRP versus Bitcoin. But that comparison, number one, that's not happening in algorithmic trading today. Number two, those comparisons are very seldom even happening in classy things on Wall Street because of either misconceptions, problems or misunderstandings about why the dollar should still be the denominator. So even if they're smart enough to look at Bitcoin and XRP, the mistake they've been making was they do Bitcoin versus USD, the dollar. Then they do XRP versus the dollar. Then they try to do what you and I were doing a while ago. Hey, well, is this one advantage? This one advantage? This gets us nowhere because we have the wrong denominator in the US dollar, and we have two assets in XRP and Bitcoin that are both amazing and both incredible. But when they're being compared to the dollar, you're getting incomplete and inaccurate information. So what I said first was Bitcoin and XRP, they're both amazing. Why don't I call Bitcoin what it is, the gold layer and the denominator, and then I take every other crypto and I start to compare it against that denominator, the real denominator, the one that's not devaluing, the one
Uh-huh.
that's
Makes sense.
not
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
with the problems. So that leads you to read the chart between XRP and Bitcoin. Naturally, when XRP has created a buying scenario, or i.e., it's low versus Bitcoin, that creates a scenario for me to buy the XRP, right? So we're going to rotate from our Bitcoin to our XRP. Then, as you stated accurately, there are many things that can cause XRP to go up versus Bitcoin. We simply take advantage of those when they happen, and that creates a real yield. Now, many people that see our system, the first question they ask me is, well, how safe is it? What if one of those coins went to zero? First off, the coins that we compare to Bitcoin, these are coins like XRP and Solana and Ethereum, and these are things that are very, very reputable, billions and billions in their market caps, institutional adoption, interest, and the like. I mean, I think there's a lot of people on Earth that think that in the crypto space, that the only coin that the banks buy or that they have an ETF is Bitcoin. This is
Mm.
not true. It's not true. Solana, XRP, and Ethereum, at my three favorites, of course, they all have institutional adoption, institutional interest in buying, ETFs either happening or trying to happen currently. So many, many, many things
The XRP
about
ETF is
the
not yet out, I think.
XRP, they have some applications in on starting to get into ETFs, and they also have the backing of some of the most notable banking outfits on earth. Just to be real with you, in my opinion, XRP and the banks are the same thing.
Mm.
I don't see a difference
Mm.
between where XRP is headed and where the banks are. But
Mm.
what's good about that is this: the banks are too big to fail. They're not going anywhere tomorrow. If you ask me, hey, will you bet your life savings that Larry Fink and BlackRock and that outfit and that crowd, JP Morgan, whatever it is, if you ask me, hey, are they going to be around in a year? Yeah.
Mm.
Are they going to have lots of money in a year? Yes. They are. Do you like what they're doing? No. Did you go to Bitcoin because of them? Yes. Do you want to avoid? Yes. But I'm not stupid. No one's
Mm.
stupid. No one thinks that something that a bank pours millions and billions of dollars into is fixing to go to zero versus Bitcoin. It's not. It's not. If something was going to go to zero versus Bitcoin, let me tell you, every fiat currency on this planet already would have. There
Mm.
is enough proof right now on this earth, right now, to prove that there is no fiat currency on this planet that has any prayer of competing in a real money versus money comparison with Bitcoin. There's not. Yet none of them went to zero. And the reason why is because the banks don't want them to. If the bank invests in it, it's not going to go to zero. Secondly, so to go back to when you asked about creating the algorithms and how to do it and what it was like and where it was going and things of this nature, if you only use the coins that are having institutional interest, you have a layer of protection that says this is not going to go to zero versus Bitcoin.
Mm.
But we wanted to be certain. So when we did our back tests of everything, and I'm fixing to tell you my numbers, but when we did our back test, we actually created a fictitious scenario that was designed to be a stress test. And this scenario I created, it was every 1 out of 10 times that we trade out of Bitcoin into another algorithm, that trade is going to go to zero. 1 out of 10. Now
Mm.
understand,
Yeah.
that's insane. That's insane. There has not been any coin with institutional adoption go to zero. It's
Mm.
just a stress test, right?
Yeah.
Even in that stress test, this was testing so well that I finally realized that I had something and I decided to make it commercial when I saw that stress test.
Mm-hmm.
So the numbers, if you have Bitcoin and you come in with 100 Bitcoin, our numbers, and these are over 5 years. These are all of my data is pulled through the Crypto Compare API, which is the same one used by Wall Street and so on. We have shown a 10.92% compounded annual growth return on your Bitcoin holdings.
It's
So
impressive.
what I want you to understand is
Mm-hmm.
this. There's two things you need to know. If I told you that I earned 10.92% on the dollar and I was just selling that, I want you to answer truly.
Mm.
Do you think that 10.92 compounded annual growth return on
Mm-hmm.
a yearly basis is in fact a good number for the dollar, a medium number for the dollar, or a bad number for the dollar? What do you
If
honestly
I
think?
compare it to BTC, it's a bad bad number for the dollar. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I agree with you.
Mm.
And I also agree with you, even if you didn't say BTC, even if you would have said the S&P 500.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think that the S&P 500 has a chance most years to get around that and maybe even better, right? It's going to live in that same thing when you're talking dollars. Now, no one on earth has ever talked about yield in Bitcoin, so we don't have a way to measure it.
Yeah.
So what I want you first to know is 10.92% on Bitcoin. Do not confuse that with 10.92% on dollars.
Right.
10.92% on dollars means one thing.
Mm.
10.92% on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Whether or not that is good or bad, that's the question you're at now, right? Is okay, well, if I accept this guy's premise and I do buy a bunch of Bitcoin, and then I accept his premise that yes, I want yield on that Bitcoin. Well, now how do I know is it better? Better than what? The problem and where I am in my industry, being a newer person in the Bitcoin yield space, I don't know what my competitors get because there aren't. The
Mm-hmm.
only things that do exist that I can compare myself to is what's known as staking. Are you
Mm.
familiar with staking?
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But
So I can
they
get
have a
off.
yield of 3% or something like that. It's a low percentage.
That's one problem, yes. Another problem is I don't know if you've ever tried this as a person, but if I asked you right now to get on Coinbase, let's say, and to try to stake your Bitcoin, do you know what happens?
I don't trust the exchanges like many people don't, and I keep my coins off the exchanges because of, so many cases of them removing, back in the day, 2021, I think they took down XRP at the time of the case, the legal case, the
The
XRP case.
FTX and
Yeah.
everything.
But yeah,
Oh,
there are
because
also
of the
outages,
XRP.
all the time outages. They don't allow you to trade, to withdraw. I mean, constantly problems with these exchanges. Yeah. So I don't trust them.
Right. This is true. I don't either. I don't either. And we'll get to that. The actual truth is even more than what you're saying. If you go to Coinbase right now and you try to stake Bitcoin, you can't. There
Uh-huh.
is none. You can stake Ethereum, Solana, Matic, many notable things. You'll notice Bitcoin's not in the list.
Why is it not? I haven't noticed this.
Um, for me, that's a very good sign. It says that someone looked at this and cannot figure out how to make fees appropriately by doing it. And they looked at every other coin and said they could. So there's that. Now I'm going to leave that because I don't want to dig too deep into that.
Okay.
We're going to get
Hmm.
into things that we don't need
Yeah.
to go there. But ask yourself, why would Bitcoin, the most famous coin on the planet, be the only one that can't be staked in this way? That's
XRP
a
can also
very
not be staked. There is no XRP staking, but for a different reason.
exactly. You're a very smart lady. I like you. Um,
So they say. Just kidding.
so with what you just said, you're correct about XRP. You're understanding that it's not being staked in Bitcoin either. The reason why is not for me to say, that's for them to say. They need to say why they don't.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
not my problem.
Yeah.
My problem as the investor is, well, I want yield on my Bitcoin and Zorina wants yield on her XRP. Let's get this. How do we get it safe? The way to get it safe was for me to invent the algorithms. And then after inventing them and going into the numbers, the first thing you look at is what happens if a coin goes to zero, which I answered. The second thing is, what is the history of this? What is the long-term nature of this? Well, in the altcoin world, 5 years is about the most reasonable data you can have, right? If you start going beyond 2020, there's a few Ethereum and XRP both existed, Litecoin, and there's a few things to look at. But the reality is 5 years is about as long as it gets, and it's about as reliable as the data gets. And I think that everyone on earth is aware at this point. I don't want to see your pre-COVID data. Don't, like, you come in here, you tell me, look, this is amazing. I got 22 years history. I say, okay, tell me about everything since COVID, because we live in a post-COVID world. I don't actually care about the pre-COVID crap because it's not here now. It's not real. I don't care about it. So what I did is I did the bag test from January 2020, first day of January 2020. I actually, just for this interview, I think it was 4 days ago. What was that date? It was the 23rd. On the 23rd of this month is when I most recently updated the back test numbers. So it's January 2020 to the 23rd of May, right in the current. Okay. So that was, where are those numbers? 63.27% gain throughout the entire time against your Bitcoin, which if you break that out, it's the 10.9, CAGR, or compounded annual growth return. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So That's really all to tell you about like the past of what I've done to catch you up to
Mhm.
today. That's really the story of how we got here. What is the Codex? What does it do? I will tell you some things from the present that don't have anything to do with that story. In our boutique firm, we have many clients. We have no client that is either A, in any kind of bad shape. They're all super thrilled. Almost all of them have doubled down, tripled down, gone to monthlies. Frankly, they bring me clients as fast as you can with a $25,000 minimum. That's it's hard to find people that are able, which is why you tokenize. As far as the tokenizing, I would say that before 2026, you will see us out there. I'm not going to start calling out names of exchanges or names of companies or individuals because they should speak for themselves and it's not right for me to do so. So here's what I'll say. You will see our coin by 2026 on majorly visible areas.
What is it going to be called? Your coin?
I
Oh,
don't
you
want to
don't.
call it the Codex. I want to call it Codex, but
Okay.
I am being pushed to call it the BTCY, Bitcoin with yield. Um, I understand where they're coming from. I think that they want something very, very simple that just explains exactly what it is, Bitcoin with yield.
Hmm.
But I have a personal attachment to the name Codex because it's my brainchild. I will probably let them win that argument at the right time. And,
Hmm.
no, the word Codex doesn't mean anything to, the 22-year-old girl in Singapore who's never met me and doesn't know my story. That means nothing to her. So they're right in that you need a name that's identifiable and can scale easily and can be recognized easily. The biggest part of what I do is it's hard to tell this story. Very difficult. There's a lot of parts to this story. What this is about, where this comes from, to get you to actually have credibility for it can take quite a long time. So, what they want is a name that really cuts right to this
Yeah.
is what we're offering. That
Hmm.
way, it will entice you to actually go, okay, well, maybe we should find out if these people are on the level because what they're offering is this.
Hmm.
That's the reason they like the
Hmm.
common name. Blame them.
Yeah. Nice. But before 2026, if somebody wants to invest in Half Acre Research in the platform as it is now, what do they need to know apart from the 25K that they need
Um,
minimum?
as far as that, there's two places you can go, halfacreresearch.tech. This is our main website for just, our normal everyday firm. You can go there at any time and jump right into calls with us. Um, my LinkedIn, Matthew Halfacre, LinkedIn. This is where we get the majority of our traffic and our notoriety and our clients and everything from. I believe in LinkedIn and I have a distaste for the other platforms. I actually do believe that if you're doing business, you should keep it to the business platform where other people are doing business and the messages are generally business related. So we put a lot of time into LinkedIn. And so my personal LinkedIn or our website is how you deal with our firm today. As far as the coin, just stay tuned. There will be many indicators for that.
Hmm. Um, can the current investors actually withdraw their Bitcoin, or are they held in for a number of months, a certain period?
No, no, actually, we wanted to do everything the exact opposite of the investment banks. So what I mean by that is at an investment bank, you are going to have to treat it as if it's not really your funds.
Hmm.
It can take you, 4 or 7, whatever days to get it back. They treat you like a number. You don't have the CEO's cell phone. You're not a human asset to them. You are a number to them. With that, we decided to do everything the exact opposite of that. So when you deal with our company, you are forced to speak to me and only me.
Mhm.
That in itself is something that I really, really, really recommend to anybody that has been in the investing space for the last 20 years. I would invite you to speak to my clients or to me directly about this. Every client I have can corroborate what I'm about to say. I speak to them on a first name basis. I know their kids. I know their wives. I have their plan. I know what they came with. I know what their exit goals are. I know what their short-term exit goals are. I know what their long-term exit goals are. I call them usually once a week. If I don't call them once a week, they still all receive a text that goes out for each one of them. Every one of them has my cell phone. The problem with what I just said, for me to give that level of service and for my team to be designed for me to be the point of contact, you can't take in that much. Like in my company, I'll just tell it to you. We have a $25 million or 500 person maximum that we are never going to break.
Mhm.
We have that so that I can keep that business model. But just to be clear, that's the business model for my boutique firm.
Mhm.
If you do, any one of your listeners, including you and any person, if you want to be a part of the boutique firm and start out at 25K or more and make a real plan that really does involve a partner in your retirement that is going to know you, call you, hold you accountable, and walk you to a real goal with real retirement, please, please come and be a part of that. But I want to speak to all the ones that don't have the 25K or do see some value, but maybe they're afraid to do the 25K. That does not mean I'm not going to get a product to you. The tokenizing is me trying to get the product to you today. Without the tokens on the exchanges, the best me and my team can offer is the 25K and kind of the minimum. But dealing with us, to go back to your question, dealing with us would be a pleasure for any person that has been engaged in a 401k, an IRA, an investment banking scenario of any kind, an exchange scenario of any kind, Robinhood type platforms that include, I shouldn't call names, not them, all platforms like this, they're all the same. They're all built off of one playbook that doesn't work, one level of customer service that isn't acceptable enough for the client. And the client is proving that by trying to leave now,
Mhm.
or at least considering leaving now. So in the boutique firm, I wanted to fix that. In the world, what I want to fix is the same thing. It's just my boutique firm can't handle that, and tokenizing and going on
Mhm.
exchanges can handle that.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I want to hear about your outlook on
Okay.
on the tokens, on what's going on. I mean, let's start with the fact that Trump has said multiple times that he's against CBDCs, but all the other countries are heavily for CBDCs. How do you think this will turn out?
Much like all of the other political theater on this earth, there will be one side talking, another side talking. The truth will be in the middle. This is true of most all, for me at least, most all political. I don't mind calling it political theater because that's what it is for me.
Mm,
My opinion. that it's political theater. My opinion is that with that political theater, you have people who are incentivized to do CBDCs.
Yeah.
You have people that, Trump in this case, that are incentivized to stand against it. First off, let's watch Donald Trump for all 4 years and let's make sure that he's not flipping back and forth. Secondly, let's watch Larry Fink and BlackRock in that crowd and let's see, are they flipping back and forth? Because I've seen both already.
Yeah.
First off.
Yeah.
Second off, is BlackRock strong enough to destroy Donald Trump? No. Is Donald Trump strong enough to destroy BlackRock? No. So you all pretending that you are powerful and that you are able to achieve certain
But
goals.
isn't it also political theater that they're against each other?
They would be against each other no matter what the argument. If I go outside and I say this grasshopper is such and such color and such, genus or whatever, they'll argue over that. They're gonna argue. The truth is CBDCs are important. They are a part of the future because everyone doesn't just leave the old way as quickly as I did. Yes, most of my holdings are in crypto, but does that mean that the person who still holds 100% dollar is wrong? No, they're not wrong. They're fine. They hold 100% dollars. They have some choices they're gonna have to make over the next 5 years. Is the dollar gonna completely die? No. Is it going to turn into a CBDC that's stable coin and perhaps even related to XRP and some other things
Mm.
like we've been discussing?
I
Yeah,
was
that's gonna
also,
happen.
yeah, uh-huh.
It's not gonna
I
stop.
also thought that there
What
were
would
also
it?
talks of the Fed dollar, which is linked on top of XRP, so something like that. That is not called CBDC, but something else, but it's still in essence a
Right.
CBDC. Yeah,
Um, it has many names.
yeah,
Um, there, there are many ways to refer to the concept of the old system moving to the new age of digital assets.
yeah,
There's many names for that. That's going to happen.
yeah,
But there is a new client and customer in town that does demand real service, real transparency, real communication, in some cases, a personal relationship. I, in fact, have clients that will tell you, most of my clients will tell you they would never invest outside of my firm ever again because of the way they're treated, the way our relationship is. They have a actual partner. Think of something to yourself. When you were 20 years old and you were just a girl with big dreams who was going to take over whatever it was, ask yourself, had someone come to you and said, I want to force you to speak to me once a week about your retirement goals, dreams, the success, failures, or you know, success betterment, all is being discussed. I want to tell you how to be better next week. I want you to tell you what your mindset should be for next week. I want to tell you what your holdings did do. I want to show you the trades that happened. I want to tell you what I think your holdings should look like. I want to tell you when I think that you, that's what everyone wanted from their investment banker. What if that investment banker comes up to you and says that, and then the other guy comes up and says, "Look, we're going to send you a card once a year at Christmas. We're going to pretend to know your family, but not know you at all. If we need your phone number, we're going to have to dig it out of the bottom drawer of the filing cabinet. Do not come in here to the office unless you call. And even if you do call, we're going to give you an appointment at Tuesday, but do not go over 30 minutes when we give you that appointment. And for God's sake, no, you can't have my cell phone number." Are you going to do business with this guy? No. Why? No one wanted that. No one from a client wanted that. The
yeah,
banks wanted that, and we did not. So while there is a CBDC, while there is going to continue fiat, while there is going to continue financial tyranny to a degree in some aspects, there are new clients. There is a new policy that clients have learned from combinations of being beaten up, seeing the possibilities with decentralization, communicating directly, communicating to bankers that aren't necessarily a part of the system. So there are many bankers out here, they don't believe in the system either. They just can't tell their boss. They go on their boss, they pretend. Then they come talk to me on Zoom calls and they're like, I'm so jealous of you. I wish I could get out of here. Man, you did it right. Please tell me how to get rid of this job. And I get that like once a week.
Mhm.
Think of that. Their own employees want to jump ship.
Yeah.
It's a sinking ship, but not the assets because the assets were important. The dollar was important. It is important. The CBDC is important. Gold is important. Real estate is important. And it's important to all of us. If you want a piece of property, real estate is super important right now. And I need those agents. I need those, the mortgage person and the title and the lending. I need all of them. The system was bad, but we did need y'all. I mean, I cussed the bank, but here in a second, if you tried to wire me $100 million, guess where I'm going? Right up to the freaking bank to start being kind and shaking hands and tell me where
Yeah.
to stand so I can get my $100 million, right? I need them. You need them.
Mhm.
So they need to understand there's a new client in town, and we need to understand they're changing,
That's right.
and both need to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you see now, the question that everybody is asking, but where do you see BTC going in, let's say, by the end of the year, in the coming 2, 3 years?
Um, End of the year. Good Lord, I'm fixing to put this out for everyone to hear. Okay.
You don't
End
have
of
to
the
if you don't want
year.
to.
No, no, no. I want to. I want to because I'd like to be able to use this later if I'm right, and if I'm wrong,
Yeah,
they've
anybody can be wrong.
been wrong before. I know my way around that. $175,000 on the last week of this year in Bitcoin pricing terms. XRP $7 per coin at the end of this year. 2030, Bitcoin a million, XRP 30.
Mhm.
That's a it's a very good guess. And just to be clear, I do want to be very, very clear. I just predicted XRP to beat Bitcoin
Mhm.
uh, over in overall returns. So I want you to know I was very impressed with your questions today because number one, you're very poignant about being in the right place. But number two, out of 3,000 coins, you immediately drew a line right to the one out of two that I may predict for beating Bitcoin. There will be others that beat Bitcoin, but I would never predict them. They're these goofy, like meme coins, and they got
Mhm.
this kind of flair for just they sell out real quick and then the rug pulls and everybody loses a bunch of money. It's actually a big problem. It has no institutional interest and it's not for me. There are meme coins, like I'm sure you've heard of them in the past, where they just get retail buyers interested in them and they temporarily pump up. There'll be many of those that beat Bitcoin. I just don't care what they are and I don't know what they are. And I suggest you don't buy them, even
Mhm.
though some of you might 1,000 times your money or 100 times your money, even though I know that some of you may do that. I advise for none of you to chase that. That
What
is
about
not.
NFTs? Do you see this as a continuous growth trend, or are they going to fade away at some point?
They NFTs previous to now, represent in my head the biggest failure in the decentralized space so far. In the now, in the present, that's my statement about the past.
Mhm, mhm.
In the present, I would call NFT as the really smart kid in the room who just got a spanking and is very angry with himself and is over in the corner strategizing right now about how to do something bigger, better, and greater that no one has ever seen. That's the present for
Mhm, mhm,
NFTs.
mhm.
And I think that the future is how clear was your thinking when you were in that corner. So if you view them as being in a corner now, regrouping and taking their spanking and then trying to reform,
Yeah.
uh, who knows? The level of reform is good. This is true of anything. Like right now, I'm very proud to tell you that we do 10.92% interest. If we look up in the year and a half and some other company that I don't even know about, and some guy comes out of a garage with, hey, I saw Matt Halfacre with 10% yield, 27 proof. I'm screwed. If that happens, I'm totally screwed. So I don't know how good they're going to come out of that corner.
Mhm, mhm.
I think they have something amazing. I think that the artistic nature of NFTs alone makes it appealing to people. I think something very interesting for me personally is how do I buy a piece of real estate without having to sign this freaking dictionary worth of paper? We got to cut down all these trees. You got to beg this one to drive from Knoxville. This one comes in from, where we live. And this whole thing is insane. I mean, technically speaking, right now, if I spent a week really hard, I could code something right now that would allow you to buy a piece of real estate on Monday morning, sell it to me on Monday afternoon at 2 p.m., make $10,000 for the day, and I buy it at 2 p.m., and then I'm out there at 4 p.m. with my tractor doing things. This is the future of real estate.
And
Not.
and why do you think this would be done with NFTs? I mean, there are other options for smart contracts like that.
It's
Maybe
it's it's
doing
not
it.
that it's NFTs specifically. I'm really commenting more on real world
Assets.
use
Yeah.
case
Mhm.
tokens
Yeah.
is the right way to say what I'm commenting on. I've
Mhm.
I've I've somewhat come off of NFTs, and generally NFT people think of art.
Yeah.
That's where it started.
Mhm.
The truth is I kind of see all of that as the same thing. But
Mm.
real world use cases for NFTs, for utility style tokens, like a company like a Tesla, a company like Facebook, a company like, Smith and Wesson and guns, or, anybody that has a following. Of course, they can use a token in a very clever way. Like Elon Musk right now. I'm just going to put some words in Elon Musk's mouth. He comes out, and I'm putting the words in his mouth.
Mhm.
He comes out and he says, okay, I'll tell you what, I like Dogecoin, I like Mars coin. I don't like Bitcoin that much, but I'm going to go ahead and put all three on Twitter. I'm going to tell you that if you want legitimacy, banks to talk to you, the ability to borrow money against it, the ability to get yield or anything else, you have to be in Bitcoin. And if you want to play, you can be in Mars Coin and Dogecoin. If he does that now, and then he tells you dollars aren't allowed here, only the three coins,
Mhm.
is Twitter going to die? Or X, excuse me. Is X going to die because he doesn't? No. Are they going to start trading the Mars Coin and the Doge? Yeah, they are. If he comes out with some other funny coin, fine. What I'm saying is, I am a retirement guy. So I don't want the Mars coin. I don't want the Doge coin. I don't want Elon's thoughts on life. I want what I know can interact with a bank can be borrowed against, can be yielded, can be maneuvered like a retirement asset has for the last 50 years. And I look at what Elon doing those three coins or would be doing them, and I say, hey, Bitcoin, but what if you say Mars coin? I want to go to Mars. I like Elon Musk. I think Mars would be cool. In fact, as soon as he sells me some, I will buy it. And then I'm going to use my Mars coin to go look at their Ariana Grande tickets and I'm going to buy that. And then when I go over here, as long as they take the Mars coin, I'll buy that. And then if I go over to here and they say I have to have Dogecoin, I'll switch it because I like them. That's what that's the future of all this stuff. But the less real world use it has, the less it has. So if your Mars coin is good on X to buy Ariana Grande tickets, it's usable. But because I cannot take it to my bank and borrow 50,000 against it, or use it as collateral in a real estate trade, I have no use for it. So I guess what I'm giving a long answer to say, just like stocks, they will be gauged by what they can offer the real world, number one. And number two, who is their management team? What are they about? And what are they doing? So if I buy a stock today, I buy Meta. I'm going to go buy Meta, Facebook. I'm going to have to ask myself, what do they offer? I'm going to have to ask myself, who is Mark Zuckerberg? Who are the people surrounding him? And what are they about? What is their mission statement? What is their proven track record? What is their future hopes? This is how you will classify everything except Bitcoin. Bitcoin will be classified the way gold was. It just is. Gold, no one asks you what's the CEO of gold. Did the management team of gold make a mistake yesterday? Did no. So that's what drew me to Bitcoin was what is it other than the adoption rates and the value? There's nothing else to look at in Bitcoin. In XRP, I think that the reason we're discussing it today is because it could be said that it has the next best list of things, least amount of things to worry about, right? I'm going to give you a really good example right now. Are you familiar with Ethereum?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. So are you aware that this is the number two coin? Period.
Currently, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So with that, this coin is number two, but it's the list of questions that I have to ask myself to buy it is terrible. It's very bad. Like I see Ethereum as being in a position where it can never be as safe as Bitcoin. There is actual proof that in the markets that it's trying to take over and trying to be the master of, Solana is killing it,
Mhm.
absolutely killing it. Adoption rates and the sophistication of what's actually taking place on site, developer interest in almost every way, Solana's metrics are beating Ethereum. So what I see for Ethereum is actually something above it that's too safe. It can never be as safe as Bitcoin. And then something below it that's better. So I actually see Ethereum as in a lot of trouble. I arrived at that conclusion by comparing its management team, mission statement, and the like to Solana's and saying, I'm sorry, I think Solana's better. And then with Bitcoin, there was no management team, so I compared it to the risk factors that were there, that do exist. In that, it can't hang with Bitcoin. So I see it as no value, even though many people on earth see it as the second biggest crypto coin.
Mhm.
That's the way forward is for
But its performance also
everyone.
has been quite lagging in the past.
It has been lagging, and I don't know if that's because I'm right or wrong. I see it just like you just do. I know it's lagging.
Yeah.
I stopped looking at Ethereum 2 years ago when I came to the conclusion that I just gave you. And I would start to look at them, except they haven't fixed the problem. If they ever actually beat Solana at something, in any metric, I'll say
Mhm.
so. Hey, watch out for Ethereum. They just don't. They haven't beat them.
What are your goals, Matthew, for the future? I know you want to bring a lot more people to the point of retirement and to, help them survive or transition to the new financial system. But what are also your goals for other people and your personal goals with this company and with?
My goals for them and my goals for me are the exact same.
Mhm,
I put my money where my mouth is. Like, if you want to know where all my money is, it's where I told you it was. It's in gold, real estate, and this,
mhm,
period. That's it. So, what I want for me and what I want for them, it's identical. It is a mixture of precious metals, real estate, and digital assets. That way they have something they can go and enjoy that's real, like their real estate. They have something they can put into their safe or whatever it is that is a true emergency fund. What if the nuclear bomb goes off and all computers are down? I can still get in my safe and I can get that gold bar and I can keep my family from dying,
mhm.
right? Real value. The only other thing I look for is fruits and vegetables. Like at my house, I do permaculture. I'm a big believer in fruits and vegetables and things like this. I think this
Mhm,
is important. I want to feed my family and myself safely. I want to retire correctly. I want to do all of that with a smile on my face. And then I want to project that smile to everyone else and have it be genuine because they are correctly retired. They have their food, their emergency fund, the new digital asset economy, and real estate all available to them. What
mhm.
I don't want for them is to get caught up in something crazy like comparing fiat currencies to currencies, using derivatives to buy real assets, but make a fake bet with the synthetic. This whole thing is just such a joke that can't even get it out. Frankly, I don't want them
You're talking
exposed to
about
that. I want
options at the moment, or?
I'm going to leave it at the word derivatives.
Okay.
This is the most irresponsible money behavior on the planet. There, I'm going to stop there before I
Yeah.
cause some real
Okay.
problems for
Mhm,
myself. But this is very irresponsible.
mhm,
This is the normal everyday client who just saved $1,000 and hopes to get to $10,000. Do not don't look at holding fiat currencies more than what you need. Definitely don't look into derivatives, index funds, bonds, all this stuff. I mean, most of these are, a bond is a debt instrument.
mm,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't know that. Why would I want to buy a share of our debt? I don't want that. I think that's insane. I I want them to know what will truly allow them to have what they need. If you just came and said, hey, if I retire with enough digital assets, enough gold for an emergency fund, enough real estate to make me and mine happy with vacations and whatever, and then enough dollars or fiat to achieve whatever my business needs next or whatever. The answer is yes, you're fine. If I gave you fruits, vegetables, enough real estate to make them happy, enough gold to fit in your safe for emergency, and then enough digital assets to scale the next 20 years and whatever happens, you're retired. You don't need anything. I want that for them, for everyone.
Mhm. Matthew, thank you so much. You've held my full interest for almost 2 hours now. I'm hoping that
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I
no,
don't
no
mean to be
need to
that
say sorry
long-winded.
because I mean it. You kept my full interest for a very long time. This doesn't happen often. That I don't interrupt and speed up the conversation. I was really, really interested, and I'm hoping that anybody listening or watching was also soaking in what you had to say because it was very insightful, out of the ordinary, what you can listen on other channels. And thank you so much. Truly great research.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Congratulations to you, Zorina. Your stuff is going very, very well. I like what I see. I enjoyed my time with you today, and I wish you the best of luck.
same to you. Good luck with the tokenization of the and the publishing of the coin. And
Sure.
everyone head to Half Acre. Is it .com or what is the website called?
It's halfacreresearch.tech.
Heck. I'll put the link below in the description for everyone. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well,
Thank you.
have a wonderful day, Serena, and thank you for having me.
My pleasure.